Welcome to Reaching Out. Today, our very special guest is Senator Charles Schumer, US Senator. Welcome back to Reaching Out.
It's great to be back, Greg. And 237 and Chuck Schumer have had a long relationship since the early days of Barry Feinstein. And we've both worked hard to help one another, and it's a relationship I treasure, and you're doing a great job as leader.
Thank you very much. And this is your third time on our show.
Third time.
We thank you for coming back. This is our new station
What do they
here.
say? Third time is a charm?
Third time is a charm. Many New Yorkers may not realize, but a major national election is coming up. It's called the Midterm Elections, and it's not as widely participated, but it's equally as important.
You bet.
Can you give us your thoughts on
Yes.
the election coming up?
You know, everyone talks about paralysis in Washington, and they're right. Why is there paralysis in Washington? There's a small group on the hard right, the Tea Party, who basically runs the Republican Party in the House and Senate. They hate government. They say government's horrible. And they believe if they can make it paralyzed, people will lose faith in government. In the House, they've managed to block everything we've done. We have a fair shot agenda to help middle-class people get better incomes. They block it. We've had so many things that we want to get done. They block it. We've had immigration reform. They block it. And if the Republicans were to take back the Senate, they would have much more strength. And some of the things that we're able to do for public housing and for so many other parts of New York City, the Sandy Aid, things like that, never would have happened. So this is a very important election. And, Greg, one of the problems is in the non-presidential elections, Democrats don't turn out as much as they do in the presidential elections. I'll give you an example. In Brooklyn, when I ran in 2004, Bush was running for president, 550,000 people turned out. 2010, off-year election, no presidential, just the Senate and House, 390,000. So if that happens and Democrats don't turn out, we could get a result that is going to be really bad for New York, no matter what your political philosophy.
You have worked so many years, even when you were a congressman, to help the New York City Housing Authority,
Yes.
NYCHA. You continue to do that. You've done so much for New York City Housing. Do you see anything in the future for funding of public housing?
This is a very important step. First, I believe in our public housing, and it's got to be good. 600,000 people live there. That's more than all but 10 or 15 cities in the United States. And yet sometimes it gets ignored. If it were its own city, if we just took all the
Yes.
public housing developments and put them all together, and they were the city of New York City public housing, everyone would pay attention to them. So my job is to try and get Washington to be more friendly. So I keep working for NYCHA. Now, there are a lot of people, these Tea Party people, who say the federal government shouldn't be involved. They should come here. We have a huge investment, tens of billions of dollars. We ought to keep that investment. How do you keep it? You got to make sure you upgrade the buildings. You got to make sure you rehab the buildings. You got to make sure they're safe. We've been able to get some money for cameras and other types of things that are needed to keep the buildings safe. But NYCHA is a passion of mine and has been for a long time. I've been in the Senate doing that. Nydia Velasquez, who's done a great
Yes.
job as Congresswoman in the House, and we work really hard to help NYCHA.
Several times you mentioned that one party, that Tea Party. There's always a group of people, individuals, small individuals, that want to hold up progress. It's like building a dam in the middle of an
Right.
ocean, in
bet.
the river. They don't want things to flow.
Exactly. Look, part of the Tea Party comes from very, very rich people who don't want to pay taxes, who don't want the government to regulate their corporations. The Koch brothers, for instance. You know, they're a big coal, oil, gas. The president, to his credit, has said we don't want these coal plants to be polluting our air. And by the way, a lot of them are in the Ohio Valley. The winds blow from west to east. Guess
Yes.
who breathes the stuff in their
We do.
lungs? Us,
Yes.
here in New York, even though we don't have much coal-burning
Sure.
plants anymore. And so they put millions of dollars to help these Tea Party candidates. Right now, our good Democratic candidates in so many of these red states, they have $1 million a week of ads against them, and not even on the issues. If you ask the average citizen, you want to lower corporate taxes, you want to reduce any kinds of limitations on what corporations can do, they said, yeah, no, we don't want to lower the taxes. Yes, we do want. These guys don't do that. They sort of do attack ads on these guys The number one reason that middle-class incomes have declined, maybe number two, is the decline of the union movement. Fortunately, where you go, Greg, the public sector is still about 35% unionized. But the private sector is 6%. If we were to increase union membership, that would be the number one way to bring back middle-class incomes. Let's not forget, in the 1920s and 30s, there were very few rich people, a whole lot of poor people, not much of a middle class.
Mm-hmm.
The union movement said to the very rich, you're going to have to, not by the federal government, but by collective bargaining, give some of the wealth that the workers are creating back to them. And a whole big middle class was created. At one point, I think about 35%
Right.
of private sector America was unionized.
Unionized.
It's now 6%.
Last thoughts. We got about 30 seconds.
Well, I just again want to thank you for the great job you do. All these folks who work hard in public housing, they work so hard, and they don't get the credit they do. But at least you're fighting to get them better wages, better benefits, better things that they need. Part of the American dream. And city jobs and jobs in public housing has always been a ladder up. We pull up that ladder, people are going to be stuck on the bottom. So thank you for the work you do.
And thank you for your work you do, because it's a partnership. You need partners in government, and we're only as good as one another. Thank you for coming on, reaching
My
out.
pleasure.
I'm Gregory Floyd. We had our very special guest, our senior Senator Charles Schumer of New York. Thank you.